Hey guys, so I'm back with the last part of the macronutrients explained thing that I'm doing. Last thing is lipids or fats, and it's one that I think a lot of us don't really pay much attention to. We listen to the media quite a lot and we say, oh, saturated fats are bad and this is bad because they've told us this, and we don't really look into it quite as much. I know I was definitely like that when I first started out. Fats are important. They play a number of metabolic functions in the body, as do all of the macronutrients. But I just wanted to round this off. Done proteins, done carbs, and now I'm hitting up the lipids. So the role of fat or lipids, triglycerides in the body, is they form virtually every membrane of cells in the body. So if you took a skin cell and you took a skeletal muscle cell, they're going to be lined with these triglycerides. The reason being is you have hydrophilic and hydrophobic, and one likes water and one doesn't, basically, and they help transport and protect cells, and they create the gates. They form the myelin sheath in the central nervous system, or within the whole nervous system. So that is literally around the neurons and all of the bits in the central nervous system. They will have a sheath to protect them because the electricity is going to be passing through them, and that's a role that the fat will play with that. It's the main makeup of the central nervous system and spinal cord, so a lot of it is fatty acids and that kind of thing in there. Again, it's good for sending signals throughout the body. Synthesis of hormones, a lot of you have probably heard about it. Higher fat equals higher testosterone, that kind of thing. It's been quite well documented, so I'm not going into that too much. Insulation from adipose tissue. So adipose tissue is the technical term for fat stores, and it basically, if you've got more around here, if you're holding a bit more in your stomach, you're going to have better insulation and you're going to have better protection as well. Transports of fat soluble vitamins, and the ones I've got here are A, D, E and K, and those are vitamins that can only be transported in fat. They will only dissolve into the fats. Fuel source during low intensity work, which again is where the low intensity versus high intensity cardio comes from. With, like, you see a lot of pros, they'll just walk on a treadmill. Fat is always going to be used, carbs are always going to be used, it's just to what percentage, and I may do it in another video, I may not. There's a lot of information already out there, so I don't know if it's worth me doing it. But if you want to know more about, like, what fuel sources are being used and what activities, definitely let me know and I'll sort out a video with that. Necessary for the uptake of calcium. So you could be drinking a lot of milk, but you might be drinking the lowest fat percent milk, and if your diet is already low in fat, you're not going to be absorbing as much of that calcium as possible and not laying it down in your bones. And calcium also plays a role within the muscles. So calcium is used within contraction, so anytime you're working out, we're using a bit of calcium as well. Necessary for lining the surfaces of the lungs, again for protection. But if you haven't got enough fat in you, you're going to end up getting possibly respiratory problems. So the structures of I'm going to refer to them as lipids for the moment, because what we've got is we've got liquid lipids and solid lipids, and the solid ones are fats. So a lot of people will say, oh, sunflower oil, it's a fat, when in actual fact it's made up of lipids. So the overall is a fat, but fats are the solid lipids at room temperature anyway. So the makeup of fat is with oxygen and hydrogen and carbon, and we've got short, medium and long chains, and obviously the same with carbs, the same with fats. The longer the chain, the harder it's going to be for our body to break it down. So what I've put as a note on the bottom here is short chains could cause weight gain, and that's because they are much easier for our body to utilise, and that means you're going to be, if you eat more of them are going to be digested, and as we know, there's 9 calories in a gram of fat. So if we're getting more of them in and our body's using more of them, there's a higher chance of our body going into a surplus of calories and thus leading to weight gain. So the structure, and I'll draw a little picture. We've got a glycerol with 3 fatty acids, and this makes triglyceride. The glycerol is a carb source, and this goes back to my carb video, but carbs are needed to burn fat, and this is the reason. We can't burn those glycerides, the fatty acids, if we haven't got a glycerol, and the glycerol is made from a carb source. So fatty acids attach to the backbone, which is the glycerol, and that makes it easier for digestion, as it's only one step away from being broken down. Much like ATP is broken down into ADP, one snap of the chain and it's done. Same with this, just one snap of the chain and we've got the energy there. So very, very easy to break down, but we do need the carbs there. So saturated, a lot of people don't realise the difference between saturated and unsaturated. It's very, very simple. Saturated are carbon atoms saturated with hydrogen atoms, and that's what gives them their structure. The straight line structure will make it solid at room temperature, because that structure doesn't want to be broken. It's got a very solid structure. So saturated fat's got a bad rap, like I said in the media. It's called bad fat, and everyone says, "Oh, get your fats from sunflower oil, or get it from all these vegetable sources, or fish with high polyunsaturates and monounsaturates." Got a study here, Felton, which is from 1994, so it's a bit of an older study now, but even so, it's still got some relevance to today. Showed that 26% of the fat in clogged up arteries was saturated, and that means the other 74% was unsaturated or plant fat. So the reason we're getting higher CHD levels in every country around the world is because we're taking out the saturated fat and telling everyone to eat unsaturated fat, when the unsaturated fat is the fats causing the blockages in most cases. Saturated fats can enhance the immune system, enhance liver function, but excess of anything is going to cause a problem. So for me, I found the best thing to keep myself healthy is to match my unsaturated with my saturated levels. And however that comes out, that's what it comes out as. So if I have 100, I have 50 of each. Or if I have 30, I'd have 15 of each. And that's a good rule to follow, I found, for me. But find out what works best for you, what makes you feel good. Because if you're feeling good, usually it means you're pretty healthy. So unsaturated fat, like I said, not completely saturated with hydrogens. And where there is no hydrogen on the carbons, then there's a double bond. And again, I'll show you pictures of both of what I've just spoken about. So we've got the saturated fats, which have the straight lines and there's no double bonds. And now we'll come to the saturated fats, which have double bonds, and at this position, this is where it's going to bend. So the structure is going to bend. And the bend forms between the two carbon atoms where they've linked over. And we've got, within the unsaturated, we've got mono and polyunsaturated fats, or lipids. So single double bond is what makes a monounsaturated a monounsaturated, because as we know before, mono means one, and polyunsaturates have several double bonds. So the further you go down the chain, so saturated, mono, poly, the further you go down the chain, the more it's going to liquefy at room temperature. And you can check that out. Go look at your oils and look at how many polyunsaturates are on it. Go look at your butter or your lard and look at how many saturates are in it. And you'll see most of the time one will come out a lot higher than the other, and one will cause it to be solid and the other will cause it to be liquid. So we've also got essential fatty acids, which again have been well documented throughout the media. We've got omega-3s and omega-6s. And our body can't synthesize this. So like with the essential proteins, our body can't synthesize these. They need them to be ingested. And omega means the end of something. So in this case, the end of the chain. And the number refers to how many links before the end of the chain that a double bond will occur. So if you've got omega-3 and you've got 1, 2, 3 is the link there. Oily fish, flaxseed oil and walnuts have omega-3, and sunflower oil, pumpkin seeds and corn oil will have omega-6. The next one I'm going to go through is not necessarily relevant in terms of the structures I'm going through. They're not really relevant. They're just something I wanted to get people get the information out there, just so people understand a little bit more about these fats. What we've got is we've got a cis fat and we've got a trans fat. So the second one you've probably heard of, trans fats. Those are the bad fats. Those are bad fats. The cis and trans. Cis means on the same side, and trans means on the opposite side. So the cis fats are natural double bonds, and they're recognised by the body. So these are fine to eat. The trans fats, which we are now finding in fast foods, these occur naturally, but in very, very small amounts in our regular lipids and our regular fat sources. Our body doesn't recognise these. It doesn't recognise them correctly anyway. It recognises they're there. So they're not metabolised properly, and they can cause damage to the functions of cells. And that's where the problems come in with these trans fats. If you're eating too many of them, of course there's going to be problems. They do occur naturally, so our body does have the ability to repair any damage done by them, but if we keep bombarding our body with them, then there's going to end up being problems. So that's the main part of all of this. But the next thing is cholesterol, and everyone always thinks of cholesterol as a bad thing. It's a very large lipid molecule, which cannot be utilised by the body. So it doesn't have any energy value. There's no calories. There's calories in it, but not for us. We can't break it down. It's got loads of functions. Again, cell membranes is one of them. Production of steroid hormones, which again I'm going to, in a minute, I'll show a diagram of how good it really is. Synthesis of bile acids, and if you go back to my fibre and my carbs and protein, you'll hear about that. Synthesis of vitamin D, again vitamin D in one of my other videos. So now I'm going to show the hormone production chart that I've drawn up. And you can see cholesterol is used to create a number of different hormones. And just pause the video, just look at this, and you can see how many different hormones are being produced. And that's all because of cholesterol. If we didn't have cholesterol, we wouldn't be producing any of them at all. And you can see at the bottom of the chart, there's testosterone and estrogen, the two main ones that people have heard of. And that's what makes us us. So if you're a girl, you're going to produce more estrogen. If you're a boy, you produce more testosterone, and that's because of cholesterol. So the last thing going on to is lipoproteins, and these aren't used in muscle building. They are used to transport different molecules around the body. So we've got very low density lipoproteins, which transport the fatty acids around the body. If insulin is high though, and we've got high levels of very low density lipoproteins, or VLDL, then there is a risk of us storing some excess fat in there, because this is what's going to transport the fatty acids around, and if our cells are set to uptake, then they're going to take this in and it's not going to get used. Then we've got LDLs, which you might have heard of before, low density lipoproteins. Once fatty acids are delivered, they will continue to transport cholesterol. So they do transport fatty acids, but they also have cholesterol in them as well, which is going to get transported around the body by these low density lipoproteins. The last one is high density lipoproteins, and these transport cholesterol from the liver to the body and then back to the liver. So anything remaining is going to go back to the liver, and the liver is where the cholesterol is synthesized from. So that's everything. I think I hit everything there. If there's anything you feel I've missed out, definitely comment below and I'll be happy to discuss it with you where I missed it out. But hopefully all of these videos help. Definitely watch them all. Give me your feedback. Let me know what you think about them. And yeah, hopefully it's good for you guys. See you later.